She was a mother of four who took a second chance on love.
He was a good husband and surrogate father to her children.
It's a big sigh of relief because men tend to shy away from that.
But now she's been missing for 3 days.
For her to just leave and not tell anyone was highly, highly suspicious.
She was on medication for several medical conditions.
The clock is ticking.
The family were putting up flyers.
They do a whole social media campaign.
The search will reveal buried secrets.
She's started dabbling in some kind of sexual fetish. She's been talking to a number of men on dating apps.
I was basically blind to everything that was going on.
But can detectives find her before it's too late?
Her phone started moving towards the Everglades.
They see a white pickup truck pull in and just sit there.
You know, the dumpsters here, they're for construction debris only.
There are garbage bags in the back.
November 7th, 2021. In this city nestled between the Atlantic and the Everglades, everyday life in Fort Lauderdale, Florida is never far from the water.
The reason why Fort Lauderdale was dubbed Venice of America was because of the waterway.
Fort Lauderdale is a beautiful city with plenty of palm trees, beautiful weather, plenty of beaches, and beautiful people.
But this Sunday, one of those people has suddenly gone missing.
On November 7th, Ernest Gordon called into the Broward County Police Department to let them know that he had not seen his wife, Wanda, in 3 days.
Last time I saw her was Thursday when she left for work.
When he came home that night at 6 p.m., she's not there.
Ernest said he wasn't worried at first.
Initially, he thought maybe she's with her friends, maybe she's blowing off steam.
But then she didn't come home at all that night.
And she didn't show up at work on Friday.
That's when he started to get worried.
Ernest had been constantly calling her, texting her. She was not responding.
I'm afraid something's happened to her.
She would never just leave without notifying anyone.
Ernest Gordon was Wanda's second husband. The 42-year-old mother of four had married Keith Morris when they were both teenagers.
When I first got with Wanda, I was 16 years old. You know, we were kids. But I actually admired Wanda from a distance at first. Every time I seen her, it's like she had a beautiful smile that lit up a room.
Once they were together, Wanda and Keith wasted little time before starting a family.
She became a family woman, and at the end of the day, it always was family first.
You have someone who is very attentive, very loving.
But going from teenagers to parents put a strain on their relationship.
She used to get me to do a lot of things, you know, that I really didn't feel like doing, but it's like we always argue.
Wanda and Keith eventually split up.
It was hard, you know, with the separation.
But the couple didn't divorce until after Wanda started dating Ernest Gordon.
They met while Wanda was working as a school crossing guard.
How you learn to handle all them kids?
Well, I do have 4 of my own.
4?
Yes.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yes, and I love each and every one of them.
Usually in the dating pool, if a woman has children, men tend to shy away from that because that's responsibility. And so typically we as women, when we find a man that takes interest in us and our children, we're thinking, yep, this could be the right man for me.
Soon the two were seeing each other on a regular basis.
She meets this man who not only does she fall in love with, but he falls in love with her, he falls in love with her children, and most important of all, her children fall in love with Ernest.
He was very good to them.
3 years after her separation from her first husband, Wanda was ready to take a second chance with Keith's blessing.
I said, I see you happy, so let me go ahead and divorce you so you can get married to who you really want to be with.
Once her divorce was final, Wanda and Ernest married.
Ernest steps up. He takes on the children, especially the youngest, as if they were his very own. And it's a really nice, tight-knit, close family.
But now, the woman at the heart of that tight-knit family is missing, and no one has heard from her in 3 days.
I'm afraid something's happened to her.
An operator with the Broward County Sheriff's Office dispatches investigators to their home to file a missing persons report.
When police show up to interview Ernest, he's visibly upset, he's distraught, he's concerned.
He told them what he told the dispatcher over the phone, that he hadn't seen Wanda in 3 whole days.
Her purse is gone, and I can't find her phone.
The fact that her purse, her wallet, and her cell phone was missing may be an indication that she left on her own free will and that at the moment she did not want to be found.
Although how she left is unclear.
Ernest told detectives that Wanda's car was parked outside.
You think someone gave your wife a ride?
I don't know.
Even if nothing happened and Wanda was fine, Ernest says she can still be in danger.
His wife was on various medications that she was taking on a daily basis.
She had a number of medical conditions. She had seizures, she suffered from depression, she had blood clots.
But according to Ernest, all of Wanda's pills are still in the cabinet.
And so with her being without her medication, there's a huge concern.
If she doesn't take her medicine, she could get real sick or worse.
They only had so much time to find her.
Mother of 4, Wanda Gordon, had made a fresh start with her second husband, Ernest.
It takes a special type of person to take on another man's children and raise them as if they were his own.
But now Ernest has called the Broward County Sheriff's Office to his home to report that Wanda is missing.
No one had heard or seen Wanda in 3 days.
She didn't have her medicine with her when she disappeared. So this is really troubling to Ernest.
But it's unclear if something had happened or if she'd left of her own accord.
It doesn't look like anything unusual happened in the residence.
But her purse and her cell phone were also missing.
However, if Wanda left, she may not have been alone.
Her car was in the driveway.
You think someone gave your wife a ride?
I don't know.
But what Ernest says next adds an entirely new twist to the investigation.
Any idea if your wife was seeing someone else?
Well, to be honest, I'm not sure.
Ernest reveals that they were separated. They were still legally married, but separated and living in the house together.
It's my fault. We had a really good thing going, but I messed it up.
A year ago, Wanda had caught him cheating.
They're still living together because they want to have a united front for the children.
Ernest says that wasn't the only reason he stayed, though.
Ernest was on the page of, I want to fix this. I want to make this work. I have seen the error of my ways.
But he admitted that Wanda wasn't ready to believe him, much less take him back.
According to Ernest, that's why he wasn't at all concerned when she didn't come home Thursday night.
Maybe she was blowing off steam.
Or maybe she was looking to escape from her problems permanently.
You said one of her medicines was for depression, right?
Yeah.
The thought did occur that maybe she had done something to herself.
But when detectives ask, Ernest insists that suicide is out of the question.
Ernest said that there was no way that she had done anything to herself.
I can't believe she'd do that to the kids. She wouldn't want to hurt them like that.
When detectives follow up with Wanda's oldest son, who still lives in the home, he says his mother seemed fine the last time he saw her.
Wanda's 19-year-old son indicated that he had seen his mom on November 4th.
He saw her around 4 p.m. It was, business as usual. Her mood didn't seem off. Nothing raised any flags.
What exactly did she say to you?
We didn't talk a lot. She was on the phone.
Do you know who she was talking to?
Some guy, I think.
He knew his mom was dating after the recent separation with Ernest.
He told detectives that he wasn't sure if Ernest knew that Wanda had started dating again, but at the same time, Wanda was not trying to keep it a secret.
Exactly who she had been seeing? Her son had no idea.
All he knows is that was the last time he saw her.
Wanda's son shared with detectives that when he woke up on the morning of November 5th, he did not see his mother's car in the driveway around 7 o'clock.
Didn't really think anything of it. He went back to sleep.
When he woke up again around 8:30, he saw the car in the driveway.
So, Wanda's son had gone to her bedroom to check on her.
Ma, you home?
Wanda wasn't home, and it didn't look as if she'd been home the night before.
It looked as though she had not slept in the bed.
It was as if his mom had not even been there at all.
Her son's account fits with what Ernest told the police.
Ernest said he didn't see Wanda's car in the driveway when he left for work at 6 in the morning. So that leaves 90 minutes where no one had eyes on the driveway.
So someone had dropped the car off in that 90-minute window.
But where was Wanda now? And why would she leave without telling anyone?
Your mom and stepdad are separated, right?
Yeah, it's complicated.
They fight?
Sometimes.
They argued, but there was absolutely never any violence.
Ernest is he's a good guy. He's made some mistakes, but...
You think he had something to do with your mother being gone?
No, not Ernest.
He said he couldn't even fathom Ernest being violent.
Thank you. We'll be in touch.
Hoping to learn more about Wanda's love life, detectives return to the station and reach out to her sister, Lucy.
They spoke to each other not just daily, but several times a day.
She told Lucy everything.
Including things she didn't tell her husband.
So you knew Wanda was dating again?
Oh, yeah.
Wanda had been using social media and online dating to try and meet suitable gentlemen.
Wanda's sister was clear that she thought they weren't all that suitable, though.
She had met some guys that were kind of weird.
What do you mean, weird?
It's embarrassing.
She says her sister started dabbling in some kind of sexual fetish, and that a lot of the men that she's speaking to on these apps are also involved in this type of sexual fetish.
What kind of things were they into?
She didn't tell me much, but it all felt strange.
Okay, did she actually meet anyone?
Well, she had been talking to this one guy.
Lucy pressed her sister for details about the guy, but Wanda was a little reluctant to give too many details.
She didn't know the guy's name.
But she did know when they were planning to meet.
Their first date was supposed to be on the night of the 4th.
That was the night that she disappeared.
Wanda Gordon's sister has told detectives that on the night the mother of four went missing, Wanda had a date with a man she'd met online.
Wanda and this gentleman that she was preparing to meet with had only been communicating through social media. This would be their very first time meeting each other face to face.
She didn't tell me his name,
Did she tell you anything about him?
just that he was into what she was.
Wanda seemed excited, but that's really all Lucy knew.
Could the mystery man Wanda met online have something to do with her disappearance?
What happens if they went on a date and that date went bad?
There's always a fear that kind of hovers around online dating and meeting people through social media.
Is it possible that she met somebody? Absolutely. Is it possible that somebody wanted to cause harm to her? Absolutely.
After talking to Wanda's sister, the detectives focus on identifying Wanda's online suitor.
To Lucy's knowledge, Wanda and this gentleman that she was preparing to meet with had only been communicating through the dating app,
which is where the detectives run into a roadblock.
The detectives had no idea what her username was or her password or even the email that she used to get into the site.
While detectives are spinning their wheels in cyberspace, Wanda's family is on the street, spreading the word that she's missing.
They put up flyers, speak to people themselves. They do a whole social media campaign.
Media outlets began airing the story.
And before too long, their efforts produce results.
After seeing a story on the news, the man Wanda had gone out with reached out to detectives.
His name is Tyrone Watkins.
He was very cooperative, willing to answer all of their questions.
Tyrone confirms that he and Wanda had been messaging for over a month.
He shows them text messages, the normal pre-date flirting.
But did you actually meet?
Yeah, just that one time.
The first time they met was on November 4th.
Tyrone says they met near the beach in Fort Lauderdale.
Now, despite the fact that they hooked up on a fetish site, what Tyrone described was surprisingly tame.
And they hung out and they chatted and they had a really, really nice time.
But according to Tyrone, that's when he learned that Wanda hadn't been entirely upfront with him.
There's something I really need to tell you.
Wanda revealed to him that she was still married, but planning to leave her husband.
It didn't sit right with Tyrone.
He wasn't comfortable with dating a married woman.
That make her mad?
Nah, she was cool with it.
He says they parted on friendly terms.
Tyrone asked her to text him to let him know that she had made it home safely.
He's being the true gentleman. Make sure that the woman gets home safe.
Tyrone says she didn't actually text him until after 1 o'clock that morning.
By then, he was asleep.
Tyrone said he then texted Wanda later in the morning around 9:20, and he never heard back.
Any idea why it was so late when she texted you?
She said she was going to the beach for a while. She seemed like she had a lot on her mind.
You still have that text too?
Yeah, it's all here.
When the detectives examine Tyrone's cell phone, it appears he's telling the truth.
They confirmed that Wanda sent a text to him letting him know that she got home.
He also shows them a receipt from the parking garage that he was in, and it's time-stamped, it's dated.
And when detectives pull footage from the city's beachfront surveillance cameras, they confirm that Tyrone and Wanda parted ways amicably.
Nothing unusual happened. She didn't seem distressed or disturbed. It was just sort of a normal, nice date.
However, something doesn't add up.
Tyrone says that Wanda was home at 1:20 in the morning, safe and sound, but Ernest says his wife never came home at all. Both stories can't be right.
Detectives needed to speak with Ernest again about the inconsistencies in his story.
So this time, detectives call Ernest down to the station to answer additional questions.
You said she never came in?
Look, all I know is she wasn't home when I went to bed or when I left for work the next morning.
When was that?
I was asleep by 11:30 or so, and I leave for work at 6.
It's possible that she did come home, but he was sleeping.
Since they were sleeping in separate bedrooms, it's likely he wouldn't hear her come in.
So Ernest is standing by what he said.
However, he also has a new lead for the detectives.
Ernest offers up a new suspect, Keith Morris, Wanda's ex-husband.
Look, what I think y'all should do, in my opinion, is look into this Keith Morris. Him and Wanda, they was having custody issues.
According to Ernest, Keith had been acting strangely ever since Wanda went missing.
He says that after Wanda disappeared, Keith showed up at the house.
He's at the door. He wants the children.
I'm just here for my kids. I don't want any problems.
They're in my house. They're gonna stay in my house.
Wanda Gordon's estranged husband, Ernest, has suggested that detectives looking for the missing mother of 4 should talk to her ex-husband, Keith Morris.
Ernest believes that Keith has orchestrated all of this so that he wouldn't have to pay child support and that he would have custody of his youngest 2 children.
What makes you think that?
He came by the house the day after she disappeared. Told me he wanted the kids.
You're for the kids. They're my kids.
The kids said they did not want to go with their biological father.
According to Ernest, Keith wouldn't listen.
Look, I don't want to do this, Ernest, but just let me have my... You know what?
Oh, you gonna call the cops?
Yeah, as a matter of fact...
Or are you tripping?
He said that Keith had called the police and demanded they make Ernest turn over the children.
My kids are in that house. This man won't give me my kids.
They are his kids.
He won't even let me see them.
Okay, why don't you take a step over there? Let me talk to the kids. We can bring them out. Let me talk to them. Hey, step over here. Hey, let me talk to them real quick, okay? Guys, you guys have a choice.
When police officers spoke to the children made it clear that they wanted to stay with Ernest. They had been with him for the last decade.
At this point, Keith left the kids with Ernest, but he did come back with a court order demanding that the kids be put in his custody.
You said he pays child support?
Every month.
He wants the kids. He has motive to get rid of her. It's something that has to be looked at.
Following up on Ernest's tip, detectives asked Keith to come down to the station for questioning.
The question that they was asking was like, when the last time you been around your ex-wife? And I was like, I didn't bring any type of harm to her.
He said there was a simple explanation for why he asked Ernest for the kids.
We have an agreement through our divorce. If one of the other parent is not here until you find out what's going on, the children have to go with the other parent.
Look, I know my rights. Those are my kids, not his.
But does that mean Keith did nothing wrong?
This pre-existing agreement could have strengthened his motive to want to get rid of Wanda.
Detectives hope that her cell phone can give them the answer.
Detectives subpoena her cell phone records.
And they do a deep dive into these records to get a little more understanding of Wanda's steps the night of her disappearance.
Wanda's cell phone data showed that she did arrive home at 1:20 a.m., just as Tyrone had told the detectives.
But she wasn't home for long.
A couple of hours later, the GPS shows that she leaves again. Her phone started moving away from the home again at around 4 in the morning.
Both Ernest and Tyrone's stories might be correct. You know, Tyrone said she was home at 1:20, and Ernest said she may have left before he woke up at 6 a.m. And clearly, the GPS shows that she left at 4 a.m.
The GPS track leads west out of Fort Lauderdale towards the Everglades.
Her phone stopped in a rural area about 4:33 a.m.
GPS shows that her phone is there for a little while, maybe about 20 minutes, and then it shows that it leaves and goes to a different secluded area.
The phone stays in that location until the battery ends up dying at around 1 o'clock in the morning on November 7th.
Police, retracing Wanda's steps, head out to the place where her phone was at 4:33 in the morning.
It turns out to be a large and well-secured construction site.
There are surveillance cameras everywhere around this construction site.
The owners did not want anyone coming out there stealing their equipment.
But could the cameras also tell the detectives something about Wanda's disappearance?
Police get a subpoena for the surveillance video.
But when they view the footage from that particular morning, they see a white pickup truck pull in and then just sit there.
Until, after about 15 minutes, a Florida Wildlife Commission officer pulls up behind the pickup.
The Florida Wildlife Commission officer actually gets out of the car.
The wildlife conservation guy has a conversation with the guy in the white pickup truck. That's all documented on film.
Then they both leave the area.
The white pickup truck heads out, heading in the same direction, the same route that Wanda's phone is, according to the GPS records.
Detectives reach out to the Florida Wildlife Conservation and are eventually able to locate the officer in the video.
When they asked him to come in and talk to them, the wildlife officer said that he approached the truck on a suspicion of illegal dumping.
He says that he assumed that that is what this gentleman was doing because he saw 3 large garbage bags in the bed of the truck.
He actually took a picture of the bags in the back of the truck.
Then he let the man off with a warning.
The dumpsters here, they're for construction debris only.
He had a conversation with the gentleman about illegal dumping. The gentleman stated that that's not the reason he was there. He said he only came out there to clear his head because he had some things on his mind.
And based on what detectives learn next from the wildlife officer, they suspect that what the man had on his mind was murder.
All right. Drive safe.
Thank you, sir.
The driver was Ernest Gordon.
Detectives investigating Wanda Gordon's disappearance have traced her husband Ernest to the same location as Wanda's cell phone at 4:30 on the morning she disappeared.
They have an eyewitness that puts Ernest at the scene, but Ernest told detectives that he was home sleeping all night long.
The lie isn't all that makes Ernest the prime suspect in what police now believe is a homicide.
The location where a wildlife officer approached Ernest was on the edge of the Everglades.
Unfortunately, at this point, the police are no longer looking for a missing person. They're actually looking for Wanda's body.
And detectives have a pretty good idea where they'll find it, too.
They had the GPS information from Wanda's phone.
The last known location of the cell phone before it died was a very swampy, wooded area in Tamarack, Florida.
Despite the difficult terrain, the searchers soon find something.
They find a black cell phone. They find several articles of clothing. They find red and black dreadlocks that actually match the dreadlocks that Wanda used to wear in her hair.
They also note an odor foul enough to pierce the pungent Everglades air.
Looks like it's probably something in there. See how you have a lot of that decomp stuff around there?
You could possibly smell the decomp depending on how long she's been out there.
Tracing the odor to its source, the searchers start to uncover human remains.
It's one of two. The other one's over here.
Eventually, the gruesome search yields more remains.
They actually found a human jawbone and a skull.
The detectives assume they found Wanda, but the autopsy is unable to confirm it.
Just looking at the skull and at the jawbone, the medical examiner thinks that they belong to a female. But unfortunately, there's so much decay that they can't say for certain that these are Wanda's remains.
Whoever she was, the autopsy revealed how she died.
The medical examiner discovered a large fracture on the side of the skull and determined that this was the fatal wound.
However, before they can charge Ernest with murder, detectives will have to confirm that the remains are Wanda's.
They had to secure DNA from Wanda's daughter.
However, the results would take some time to find out if there was a match.
While they wait, the detectives attempt to put Ernest closer to the location where they found the remains.
They contact the Tamarack Police Department and they ask them if they can review traffic cameras.
Since it was deep in the swamp, there weren't any cameras in the close proximity where the police found the remains. But there were several in the broader vicinity.
Wouldn't you know it, right there on tape, about 5 miles from the dump site, there's Ernest's truck, captured on camera.
However, there is one thing the camera doesn't capture.
The garbage bags are no longer in the back of Ernest's truck.
It looked like Ernest was engaged in a little illegal dumping after all.
To strengthen the evidence further, detectives also subpoena Ernest's cell phone records.
Police take a look now into Ernest's GPS to see if they can trace his movement to that particular location.
During the time that Wanda's phone was moving, Ernest's phone was not moving. In fact, his phone was still at the house.
They figured that he deliberately left his cell phone home to throw off the investigation.
However, the records also revealed that on the following night, Ernest neglected to leave his phone behind.
Ernest had traveled to the exact location where the remains were found at 11 o'clock that night on November the 5th.
Was he checking to make sure that the body was not visible, was not in plain sight?
For him to go back to that location showed that he knew where she was at. It showed that he was involved.
With proof putting Ernest at the location where the body was found, the detectives bring him in for another round of questioning.
We just want to go over your movements on November 4th and 5th.
Okay, but I already told you guys everything.
Everything?
But then he remembers something he hadn't told them.
When they asked him about the Florida Wildlife Commissioner stopping him that evening, he stated that he had forgot that he had gone out.
He claimed that he was just driving around to clear his head.
Then he said he went straight home.
You didn't stop and throw anything away?
What do you mean?
According to the wildlife officer, you had some garbage bags in the back of your truck.
He's got an answer for that, too. He says, oh, those bags were from some landscaping I had done.
He said he threw them out a few days later.
You sure about that?
The police keep putting pressure on Ernest.
Officers informed him that his pickup truck had been caught on a traffic camera.
And eventually, Ernest starts to crack.
I don't know. I don't know anything. I don't know where.
When detectives confront Ernest Gordon about the suspicious drive he took to the Everglades the night his wife Wanda disappeared, they believe his response is telling.
He breaks down, he's devastated, he's crying.
But Ernest's tears aren't followed by a confession.
I don't know what happened. Look, I don't know anything.
In spite of all of this evidence that they are presenting before him, he maintains that he does not know what happened to Wanda.
He didn't admit that he killed her. He didn't deny it. He basically just had no explanation.
Instead, he stops the interview and asks for an attorney.
I want a lawyer.
They say, is it because you had something to do with your wife's disappearance or death? He refuses to answer.
Detectives are sure they've found Wanda's killer. All they lack is proof that they found her.
The remains, the skull and the jawbone, haven't been identified yet.
They have no confirmation as to who that body was, so they had to let Ernest go.
But even as Ernest walks, the detectives keep digging.
Officers have enough evidence to get a search warrant for the Gordon's home and also for Ernest's white pickup truck.
They searched both using a chemical called luminol, which reacts with blood under black light.
They find blood. Lots of blood in Wanda's bedroom.
The luminol test also finds blood in the back of Ernest's pickup.
It revealed traces of blood in the same area where those 3 trash bags were located, on the back of Ernest's truck.
Between the blood, cell phone records, and other evidence, the detectives develop a clear picture of how the crime most likely occurred.
They had a theory that Ernest was actually up waiting for Wanda to come home, knowing that she had been out on a date.
Wanda returned home from her date around 1:20 in the morning, and Ernest was waiting. And Ernest was mad.
Stop! I know what you've been doing. This is what I'm doing. I'm not gonna tell you.
They got into an argument over either the divorce or the infidelity, her moving on and going out and dating other people.
He was not able to handle the fact that she was out seeing other people.
So, the situation escalated.
Don't you walk away from me!
Ernest had lost control. Not just in the heat of the moment, he lost control over how Wanda saw him when the infidelity happened.
And desperate to regain it, he lashed out.
Ernest must have picked up a blunt, heavy object and hit Wanda.
He hit her on the side of the head, which was fatal.
Once he realized what he did and that she was dead, he tried to cover it up.
And now all detectives need is the one piece of evidence to tie everything together: Wanda's DNA.
On December 9th, the results are in, and it shows conclusively that the remains found in the swamp are those, unfortunately, of Wanda Gordon.
An arrest warrant was issued for Ernest. He was taken into custody the very next day.
He's charged with second-degree murder.
As a trial date approaches, Ernest faces reality.
His lawyer came to me and told me out front that he doesn't want to go to trial. The agreement was that in return for a guilty plea, he would be sentenced to 50 years in Florida State Prison.
It's also essentially a life sentence.
He is in his 40s, so he will be in his 90s when and if he ever gets out.
But no matter how long Ernest spends in prison, it doesn't ease the pain of losing Wanda.
You took somebody away despite the ups and downs that me and her had. You took somebody away that is dear to me and my children.
The family's going to be feeling the fallout of that forever.
Sanford, Florida is a charming waterfront community just steps away from Florida's largest tourist attractions. But hidden beneath Sanford's splendor is a long history of racial prejudice and discrimination. February 2012, the shooting of Trayvon Martin would pull those deeply rooted issues into sharp focus, and the outcome of a controversial investigation would spark the Black Lives Matter movement, becoming the blueprint for a growing wave of social activism on a scale the world had never seen before. "20 miles from the hustle and bustle of Orlando, Florida, you'll find the town of Sanford. It's a quiet bedroom community nestled along the shores of scenic Lake Monroe.
Sanford is home, and there's no other word that I can say other than home. I eat, sleep, and breathe this place.
On the weekends, we would go to the parks, and you'd see people of all races and ethnicities enjoying each other's birthday parties, carnivals, festivals.
Sanford began, like many other cities in the South, as an agricultural center.
The city of Sanford at one point in time in the early 1900s was your #1 exporter of celery. When you go around the city of Sanford, you see all of these things say Celery Avenue, Celery City, Celery Estates, because they were all former celery fields.
Although Sanford's black workers provided most of all the labor in the fields, they were still treated as second-class citizens.
Those Jim Crow era laws that exist that disenfranchised people exist for them. And they want a means to support their family. They want to be able to go to the grocery store. They want to have a theater. And so what happens is some business owners, African American, decide that they're going to come up with their own city.
Between 1887 and 1891, two brothers and former slaves named Joseph and William Clark incorporate the first two all-black cities in Florida, Eatonville and Goldsboro.
There's no other place in the country like Goldsboro and Eatonville, where there are black cities created by black people for black people. So where they have a safe environment, where they feel safe in their spaces, they feel safe to thrive.
But as with many thriving black communities in America, Goldsboro's success would ultimately lead to its downfall. In neighboring Sanford, their city's mayor, Forrest Lake, had an insatiable appetite for expansion, and Goldsboro's independent charter impeded his plans.
He devised a plan to steal the charter of Goldsboro.
He went to the Florida State Legislature and asked that the Goldsboro Charter be dissolved so that Sanford could annex the area. But when it did that, it then went in and made changes. For instance, there was a street named after the black mayor for Goldsboro. They renamed that street after the white mayor of Sanford.
The citizens of Goldsboro sued, and the resulting court battles lasted more than 40 years. But in the end, the courts sided with Sanford. Over time, Goldsboro's story became a footnote in Sanford's history. The perception of harmony eventually settled in, and both communities found relative peace, as long as everyone knew their place.
You stay on your side of the tracks, we'll stay on our side of the tracks, and there won't be any issues.
But in 2012, the murder of Trayvon Martin would reopen those old wounds, forcing the city and the country to confront their troubling past. Just before 7 p.m. on February 26, 2012, 17-year-old Trayvon Martin leaves his father's home in Sanford. Inside a gated community known as the Retreat at Twin Lakes.
Just so happened to be the NBA All-Star weekend. It was about time for the game to come on. And Trayvon decided to go to the store. Trayvon went to buy a couple of items, something that any 17-year-old kid would do, and he bought Skittles and a can of iced tea. As he was leaving, it was raining. He had on a hoodie, as we call them, to protect himself from the rain.
His family begins to worry when several hours pass, and Trayvon still hasn't returned home. But since Trayvon has some cousins in the area, Trayvon's dad feels no need to panic.
It was 10:30, 11 o'clock, somewhere around there. And when we started making phone calls to see where he was at, he wasn't answering his phone. I ended up dozing off. We left the back door unlocked so he can come back in the house.
What Trayvon's loved ones don't know is that he was involved in a terrifying incident within the gates of Twin Lakes earlier that night.
911, do you need police, fire, medical?
Maybe both. I'm not sure. There's just someone screaming outside. Hurry up, they're right outside my house.
Other 911 calls report shots fired. Sanford police officer Tony Raimondo is one of the first officers to respond to the scene.
When I get out of my car, I see a police officer standing with another individual. He looks like he's kind of got a busted up nose. Officer Smith points down to his belt where I see a gun kind of stuffed in his belt. And so immediately I'm thinking, okay, we have a suspect in custody.
Sergeant Raimondo is directed to a grassy area just off the sidewalk.
Officer Smith kind of motions down the sidewalk into the grassy area where I see a body lying there. And I go down into this grassy area to determine what the needs of the person laying there are.
Amidst the chaos of the scene, the gunman identifies himself as George Zimmerman, a 28-year-old resident and the Twin Lakes Neighborhood Watch Coordinator. Zimmerman claims he was suspicious of the young man and decided to follow him through the complex.
Some type of confrontation ensues. It becomes physical, and during that physical confrontation, shots are fired. Mr. Zimmerman alludes to the fact that he was defending himself.
Zimmerman says he fired one shot, striking the young man in the chest. Although he won't be identified until the following day, Sergeant Raimondo finds Trayvon Martin lying on the ground, bleeding and unconscious.
I was really taken in the moment that here's this young kid who really needs some help very quickly. I bend down, take a knee next to him, and immediately just try to get a pulse. I've got a couple kids that look just like him at the house. And I'm hoping that, under similar circumstances, somebody would help my children. And so what I decided to do is just initiate CPR. We did CPR for 7 minutes before rescue arrived.
Trayvon Benjamin Martin was born on February 5th, 1995 in Miami, Florida, to Tracy Martin and Sabrina Fulton.
Trayvon was my youngest son. I have 2 boys. Trayvon was my baby. It's a special bond that you have with your son. I say I substitute S-O-N with S-U-N because I say that my son is my sunshine.
When he was born, it was like a new beginning. I wanted him to have more than I had growing up. I wanted to be involved in his life.
Even after his parents divorced in 1999, Trayvon was surrounded by strong family support.
He grew up in a middle-class home, both parents working, so he just grew up with a regular average life, playing football and baseball and basketball and all of those things.
As he started getting older, he was pretty good with his hands, fixing on things, and he loved planes, and so that probably would have been his career.
I was very proud of him, but he had his growing pains like any other teenager.
By his junior year, Trayvon's desire for teenage independence led to him occasionally skipping school. One bout of truancy resulted in a week-long suspension, so his parents decided a break from Miami might do him some good.
My then fiancee, Brandy Green, who's now my wife, Brandy Martin, lived up in Sanford.
His dad wanted him to spend some time with him, and he went up.
I wanted him to get his head clear. Decide your future now. It's early. Let me get you away from what's distracting you right now. And you come back and we'll start over.
But now, that fresh start has come to a violent and tragic end.
Once rescue arrived, they hooked up their leads to their equipment and worked on him for a short period of time and determined that he was deceased. And so we went from attempting to save his life to managing a crime scene.
With the limited information available at the scene, it's still unclear to authorities whether a crime has been committed at all. But as more of the story unfolds over the coming days, an ensuing controversy will throw the city of Sanford into an uncontrollable tailspin, and it will quickly find itself on the world stage for all the wrong reasons.
I remember seeing the lead investigator that night, and he says to me, "Hey, Tony, this one's going to be bad." And I was like, "What do you mean it's going to be bad? You got the guy, you got the gun, you got the body." And he's like, "Yeah, it's not that simple." Turns out he's exactly right.
Nearly a century after Sanford annexed the city of Goldsboro, the two communities have continued to keep their distance, albeit peacefully.
As long as you stayed where you're supposed to stay, it's fine. As long as you're not dating my daughter, you're fine. We don't have a problem with blacks. We don't have a problem with whites.
By 2012, a handful of gated communities dotted Sanford's landscape, creating both physical and socioeconomic barriers to those who live outside the wrought iron fences.
Most of the time, those are built particularly with the express purpose of keeping black people out. And I think that was the thing that got to me. It's a 17-year-old black boy being killed. It's a gated community. George Zimmerman didn't think that he was supposed to be where he was.
As George Zimmerman is taken to the Sanford Police Department for further questioning, Trayvon Martin's family is now starting to panic.
I got a call Monday morning from Tracy telling me that Trayvon didn't come home. Now, for me as a parent, that's unusual because, you know, our kids come home at night. And so I'm just wondering, like, what is going on, you know?
At 8:30 a.m., Trayvon's father decides it's time to call the police.
I told him the situation that my son Trayvon was missing. I gave him a description, what he was wearing last. And so they said, "Okay, we'll call you back."
Dispatchers put out an APB for Trayvon. That's when Officer Brian McIntosh makes the connection.
Black male, 17 years old, didn't come home. Upon reviewing the call, I made calls to my sergeant, thinking that it could be the juvenile from the night before in the homicide.
I'd never forget it. It was a drizzly day. I'm waiting on the police to show up. I'm thinking I'm gonna file a missing persons report, and I see a chaplain pull up. These two officers, he pulled out photos of crime scene photos. Trayvon laying on the ground, deceased. That began the nightmare.
Tracy called back, and I didn't believe him. And I just could not, I couldn't imagine losing my 17-year-old. I was numb.
As a parent, you don't prepare yourself for the death of your child. It does something to you, emotionally and physically. Put you in a bad space. And so my next question was, who did it?
In an interrogation room at Sanford's police headquarters, George Zimmerman is giving detectives his side of the story.
So your first name is George? Yes, sir. And your last name is Zimmerman? Yes, sir. So start from the beginning. About what time yesterday?
About 7 p.m. I left my house to go to the grocery store, and I was leaving my neighborhood when I saw this guy looking towards the house, and I knew he didn't live there, so it made me a little suspicious.
He thought that Trayvon had something to do with some burglaries he said that had occurred in the area.
I called the non-emergency line. Mm-hmm. As I was on the phone, he walked past my car, and I lost visual contact of him. The operator asked me if I could get to somewhere where I could see, or at least give him a direction of where he was headed.
And so he gets out of his car and he follows this young man into a pretty poorly lit area of the retreat of Twin Lakes.
That's when Zimmerman claims things took a violent turn.
He said he appeared out of nowhere. He came out of the bushes. And according to George Zimmerman, Trayvon Martin had attacked him.
He ended up on top of me, and he just kept punching my face and my head. I was screaming for help, and I got a little bit of leverage, and I started to sit up. But when I shifted, my jacket came up and exposed my firearm, and that's when he sat up and looked and said, "You're gonna die tonight, motherfucker."
And so he says that, in defense of his own life, he had to fire a round, which hits Mr. Martin's center mass in his chest, ultimately taking his life.
And as soon as the round went off, he stopped attacking you?
He sat back, and he said, "You got me. Or you got it. Whatever."
I'm sure it all happened just that quick, too.
It felt like an eternity.
Based on his initial statement, Florida's Stand Your Ground law has potentially given George Zimmerman the authority to shoot Trayvon Martin.
If you take Mr. Zimmerman's statement at face value, he was the subject of this assault at a place that he had a legal right to be. What our law says is you can defend yourself up to deadly force.
They let him go home, let him take a shower, let him sleep in his bed that night.
Although no charges are filed that night, the case is eventually sent to the Attorney General's office to determine if any charges are even warranted at all. But for Trayvon's family and many in the Sanford community, it appeared as if the case was already closed.
It just didn't sit well with me how they just let him go home. I knew that I had to do something. I told Detective Chris Serrano I need to get my son back to Miami so we can bury him, and then I'll be back. I told myself that I'd fight, and I'll keep fighting, and I'll keep fighting until we get what we feel is justice.
It has been less than 24 hours since 17-year-old Trayvon Martin was shot to death in Sanford, and many in the community begin to fear the case has already been closed.
A black child was effectively stalked by an older white man in a neighborhood and was killed and was going to get away with it because of a law in Florida that no one had ever heard of before.
I knew my son. I knew that he wasn't a confrontational type of person. He was just walking home. He had his hood on, just minding his business.
The family's frustrations are only magnified when they receive a copy of Trayvon's autopsy report.
I started looking at the autopsy report, started seeing the damage that was done by that one bullet. It had a severed spleen, lungs that had been torn in half, kidney was torn up, heart was split in half. It didn't coincide with the story that they were telling us. It didn't coincide with him being attacked by Trayvon.
There was nothing on his knuckles, no blood, no scratches, no nothing. Just nice, clean hands. And if you get into a fight, you're gonna have something on you.
When Tracy Martin brings his concerns to the Sanford police, they insist their hands are tied. It would be up to the Attorney General to file charges, if any.
The investigators sent everything to the state attorney's office to get their opinion on what do we have here, how should we proceed.
I would ask the chief why and what's going on, and he would continually tell me this is an ongoing criminal investigation, and at the time, they do not feel they had enough to criminally indict Mr. Zimmerman.
I knew that I could not stay in Miami and allow that to happen, that the person that had shot and killed my son not be arrested. And so that night, I packed my things and we went to Sanford.
After Trayvon's funeral, his family begins applying pressure to law enforcement by pushing the story into the national spotlight.
We started doing press conferences every day, 2, 3, 4 times a day. It was like an email blast that, hey, listen, something ain't sitting well in Sanford, Florida.
you have the most innocent person in the world, and just because they're black and they wear a hoodie on their head, they're all of a sudden, they're looked at as a criminal.
Racial profiling has to stop, Mr. Speaker. Just because someone wears a hoodie does not make them a hoodlum.
That was the wellspring of the outrage. People got progressively more upset and saw it as sort of like a state-sanctioned lynching.
For parents, they saw Trayvon as being their child. And the young people saw Trayvon as themselves.
The conversation about stand your ground took center stage, and that was sort of everybody's introduction to the law.
Could you shoot someone just because? What does that really mean? What's the purpose or the intent behind this law? Was it a racist law to begin with?
The growing media attention garners support for Trayvon and his family around the country.
Trayvon Martin brought that racism right back up front in your face and made a lot of us realize that it's time to push back and shut down traffic, let folks know what was going on.
All of those things look like a repeat of history. How you did it during the civil rights. Then they just had TVs. The power of social media is what brought the attention and what recognized and catapulted to another level.
According to Trayvon's family, the added exposure causes those in charge of the investigation to become even more guarded.
It goes from, we just want to give you limited detail to now we're not going to give you any details because this is an ongoing investigation.
But the Sanford Police Department insisted they were doing everything by the book.
I believe that the Sanford Police Department did everything by contemporary standards to investigate that case. I don't believe that this case was handled any different than any other one would have been, but I understand how the inference could be made that it was.
On March 8th, the family files a lawsuit to release all public records on the case.
Trayvon Martin's issue was not like the other issues where there was a camera or a cell phone recording it. We want to hear the tapes. We want to hear the audio, the 911 call.
I remember going to the courthouse early on to file a court order. The more we dug into it, the more we found out. I couldn't believe it. Trayvon didn't know what to think. He didn't know why this guy was following him. He didn't know why this guy got out of his vehicle and chased him. He had no clue.
As outrage over the murder of Trayvon Martin dominates social media, the rift between Sanford's black residents and law enforcement grows wider.
George was not a police officer. Still, it was felt that law enforcement could have done different. And so now we got a trust issue.
They let somebody go within hours of killing a young child, a person that did not have a weapon on him. The only thing he had on him was Skittles and an Arizona iced tea.
The Sanford Police Department takes the brunt of the blame for not charging Zimmerman, even though they say there was enough evidence for an arrest.
The state attorney told us no. They're ultimately the ones responsible for the charging decisions, but the narrative is never formed that way. It was always Sanford Police, Sanford Police, Sanford Police.
On March 16, 2012, under mounting pressure, the Sanford Police Department releases all 8 911 calls placed on the night of the shooting, including the one from George Zimmerman himself.
Sanford Police Department. Hey, we've had some break-ins in my neighborhood, and there's a real suspicious guy. This guy looks like he's up to no good, or he's on drugs or something. It's raining, and he's just walking around looking about.
Okay, and this guy, is he white, black, or Hispanic?
He looks black.
The tapes reveal Zimmerman was told to wait for police, an order he chose to ignore.
We got him on the way. Just let me know if this guy does anything else.
Okay. These assholes, they always get away.
Are you following him?
Yeah.
Okay, we don't need you to do that.
You listen to the tape and he doesn't wait, right? Like, that's the thing. He's under the impression that Trayvon just walking home poses so much of a threat that he can't wait for the authority that he has called upon to address it.
Recordings of the neighbors' 911 calls are even more difficult for the family to hear.
I don't know what's going on.
So you think he's yelling help?
Yes. There's gunshots.
You just heard gunshots?
Yes.
How many?
There's one.
In the background, you can hear scuffling going on. You can hear Trayvon screaming, and then you hear pop. You hear the shot. And you don't hear no more screaming.
There is some debate over whose voice is calling for help, however. Trayvon's family is certain it's him, but at least one witness says it's Zimmerman.
What he says to us is he's inside watching TV and he hears screaming. He walks out of that back patio area of his house and he sees Trayvon kind of pummeling George Zimmerman in what he describes as MMA style. He says that Mr. Zimmerman is screaming for help.
Anybody with a loaded gun would not be screaming for help. It would seem to me that a 17-year-old who felt that he was about to be shot was screaming for help.
4 days after the tapes are released, Trayvon's parents find a witness who can speak for him.
Trayvon, like any other kid, love his phone. I was trying to backtrack and see who's the last person he talked to. Trayvon was killed at 7:23 p.m. And I was like, look, man, this is interesting. He was on the phone talking with somebody.
The person on the phone with Trayvon was a friend from high school named Rachel Gentel.
She spoke to him when the altercation occurred.
He mentioned to the young lady on the phone that somebody was following him, and she told him he should run, and he did.
A few moments later, Rachel heard the sounds of an argument. Then the call was cut off.
Once the phone dropped between those 30, 40, 50, 60 seconds, you know, you really don't know what happened. But I know for a fact that he wasn't doing nothing. This proves the theory that he wasn't looking in nobody's window. He wasn't trying to break in nobody, but he's on the phone.
The family and their attorney no longer trust the powers that be with the new evidence, so they give Rachel's statement directly to the press instead. The news results in more protests, and this time, demonstrators in the tens of thousands descend on the city of Sanford.
I really think that shook up the state of Florida.
You had 50,000 plus people, and you saw all these signs that were made. And you saw the start of Black Lives Matter.
Trayvon hit everybody like, are y'all for real? This cannot possibly still be happening. We have to do something. We have to go outside. We have to march. We have to raise awareness. Somebody has to understand that we are angry as a people, and we won't take this land down.
No justice! No peace! When do we want?
While the news of Trayvon Martin's death sweeps the nation, the city of Sanford is forced to reconcile its own dark past, dating back to Sanford's hostile annexation of the all-black city of Goldsboro.
Well, it really seemed like the death of Trayvon took a scab off of what had not healed in the city of Sanford, but was kind of just being lived with.
The city of Sanford stole an entire city. Each time I drove by your neighborhood, it was pretty and had all these flowers. Well, where did you get the money from for your neighborhood? You took it from mine. And you left mine for dead. So we kept pouring salt on the wound, pouring salt on the wound, pouring salt on the wound, and the wound never healed.
Protesters filled the streets of Sanford, demanding justice for Trayvon. Among them are many from Sanford's own black community.
Then the community put pressure on its elected officials to change the prosecutors that were in the case.
We met with the city manager. We met with the mayor, and that's when he assigned a special prosecutor, which is Angela Corey.
On April 11, 2012, the newly appointed special prosecutor agrees to bring formal charges against George Zimmerman.
Today, we filed an information charging George Zimmerman with murder in the second degree. A capias has been issued for his arrest.
The charges, however, are met with mixed reactions.
When I looked at the charge, second-degree murder, I thought it would be very difficult for them to prove that case because they would have to prove not only did George Zimmerman kill Trayvon Martin without justification, but that there was some evil intent or ill will involved. It seemed as if a prudent prosecutor would have charged manslaughter, which was more likely to get a conviction.
It feels like theater. The system does tend to overcharge black people, right? And I think they're making a show of, hey, we're also doing this to someone that killed a black person. Like, this is what justice looks like. This is equal opportunity, right? What they wanted was a public relations win more than they wanted George Zimmerman held accountable for his actions.
Those concerns grow in the months leading up to the trial, and they're only magnified by Zimmerman's well-documented attempts to control the narrative.
And then I thought to get out and look for a street sign.
Right. Often in cases like this where force is used or some crime is alleged, people will, express their Fifth Amendment protections and say, look, I don't want to cooperate. I don't want to say anything. Mr. Zimmerman was the opposite. He was looking for opportunities to tell his story. He even voluntarily went back to the scene and walked through it with investigators while being filmed.
He said, yo, you got a problem?
Part of what was so enraging about the event was that in no way did it conform to the notion of self-defense as we understand it. The idea that it did is bullshit.
When Zimmerman's attorneys add the footage to their evidence list, it further angers Trayvon's supporters.
If you have just a small glimpse of what a crime scene is and what a murder suspect, how he's treated, you know that they don't take the admitted shooter to the crime scene for him to give his accounts of what happened there.
Oh, I tried to sit up, and that's when he grabbed me by the head and tried to slam my head down. And
what does this remind you of? Look at Buffalo. The guy who went and killed all those black people in that supermarket. Police brought him out, not a mark on him. They brought Dylan Roof, the boy who shot up all those black folks in a church. They put a vest on him to protect him. It makes you feel like they agree with what they did. And the white man can come in and take your life and you can't do anything about it.
Racial tensions continue to escalate through the jury selection, setting the stage for the trial to come.
One particular white lady said, well, if Trayvon Martin's dad would have been in his life, that he'd still be here. And that had to be the most dumbest statement I ever heard.
All that does for those who believe in the value of black life is intensify things and say, like, well, the enemy has showed up, right? And we know what we're up against.
They're gonna defame, they're gonna assassinate your character. They're gonna do everything they can in their power to discourage you from fighting for your loved one, but at the end of the day, you gotta keep fighting.
We're not gonna stop until we get justice for Trayvon.
Amid national scrutiny, the murder trial for George Zimmerman.
That's the whole thing. Because if you can't talk about race, you can't talk about why does George Zimmerman perceive Trayvon Martin as a threat? Why does he feel that he has the authority to approach Trayvon Martin?
Prosecutors paint Zimmerman as a wannabe cop who was looking for a fight.
Observe and report, right? Isn't that what the neighborhood watch is about? You observe and report. He didn't choose to do that. He got involved. He injected himself into the situation.
The defense sets the tone for its response in its opening statement.
Knock, knock. Who's there? George Zimmerman. George Zimmerman, who? All right, good. You're on the jury.
The defense attorney opened up with a knock-knock joke.
Nothing?
This is really like the trial of the century where you got a bunch of racial implications, and we were damn near on the brink of racial war. It was just like distasteful. From that point, it kind of showed that the defense attorney looked at it as a joke.
They turned it around and made this trial about things that had nothing to do with the fact that he was an unarmed kid and he was being chased by someone with a gun.
Trayvon's family and supporters believed the defense's primary tactic was to put Trayvon on trial.
The way in which they went about defending their client was defaming the victim. And defaming the victim through racially coded messaging that was reinforcing a narrative of danger that is inherent in Black youth.
Just listening to them talk about Trayvon and who Trayvon was, and they never met him. They didn't know him. He wasn't committing any crime. He had never been arrested. None of those things.
That was tough to sit through. The state is supposed to defend the victim. In this case, the state let the defendant portray himself as the victim.
And that's when he grabbed me by the head and tried to slam my head down.
His claims that he was getting his head bashed and Trayvon reached for his gun. Number one, there was no DNA from Trayvon on the gun. Number two, the nail clippings of Trayvon, there was no DNA in his nails.
Zimmerman himself never takes the stand, but his story is still entered into evidence.
One of the things that I thought was unusual was allowing George Zimmerman's tour with the police department to come in without him ever having to testify, to be subject to cross-examination, and have to answer the prosecution's questions. If you're going to assert self-defense, 9 times out of 10, you have to testify to what led you to believe that your life was in danger. You have to testify as to why you took the actions that you did. And it seemed as if George Zimmerman was let off the hook from having to do that.
Still, Trayvon's loved ones remain optimistic.
I felt that the justice system would see that this was an unarmed teenager and that a 28-year-old adult followed, chased, pursued, profiled, and ultimately shot and killed a 17-year-old. I just thought that it didn't matter what color skin the person was.
After a 3-week trial, the jury begins deliberations. 16 hours later, they return with a verdict. Not guilty on all counts.
It's just disbelief. Just like, how? It doesn't make sense. It just made me feel like every other African American, that the justice system is just not for us.
They want to blame Trayvon. They want to say, oh, Trayvon fought back. He fought back because somebody followed him in a car and got out and accosted him. Who wouldn't fight back? You understand what I'm saying? They want to talk about stand your ground. Trayvon was standing his ground.
Following the trial, demonstrators staged peaceful protests in cities across America. And although the outcome is not what they hoped for, Trayvon's case will inspire a new generation of social activists.
We opened up a lot of eyes. What it did was ensured that the name Trayvon Martin will forever be woven into the American flag. Some say that he divided the country. Either way, his name will never be forgotten in U.S. history. That says a lot for a 17-year-old Black boy in Miami.
Clarksdale, Mississippi is known as the birthplace of the blues. It has produced numerous music legends, including 7 inductees into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But it's situated in a region darkened by a history of racism, marked by the notorious lynching of 14-year-old Emmett Till in 1955. Nearly 60 years later, the mysterious murder of an aspiring Black politician in this deeply Southern town reopens old wounds. And when disturbing details of the crime hit the national press, many fear history is repeating. Clarksdale is a small town on the Mississippi River, about an hour south of the Tennessee border. It's a city where the roots of a rich black history run deep, but that history has come at the cost of centuries of tremendous struggle and suffering. From slavery to Jim Crow, Clarksdale's black residents have never had an easy road, and inequality and hardships have always been a way of life. But out of that pain, Clarksdale gave birth to something beautiful, the musical genre known as the blues.
Clarksdale has always been a place of the blues. A lot of blues musicians came from here. Ike Turner, Muddy Waters, Charlie Pride.
There was also Robert Johnson, and there's stories about him selling his soul to the devil to become an excellent guitar player, and that's supposed to happen right here in Coahoma County at the crossroads. The blues has its own method of speaking to the masses, and it was created by blacks for blacks. So therefore, a black singing the blues, another black can understand and feel his heartbreak and what he was going through there.
But despite such important contributions to the city, Clarksdale's black residents still have very little to show for it, thanks to a system that is designed to keep them unequal and unrepresented.
For the last 100 years, you would have a small minority controlling the masses here. We would always have 3 or 4, sometimes 5 white supervisors that controlled the entire county, but you had 80% of the county being black.
We don't own a lot of things, so others think that why should you have a voice?
It's a concentrated effort to make sure that the people in power stay in power and the people out of power stay out of power.
In 1955, the lynching of 14-year-old Emmett Till in nearby Drew, Mississippi, brought tensions in the region to a boiling point.
Well, history has it that we walked into a store to buy some candy, and for whatever reason, the lady in the store felt uncomfortable with him and let it be known to other white guys in the community. And so they went to his home, got him out of the bed, and took him to the lake.
2 white men shot Emmett, tied a heavy fan to his body, and threw him into the Tallahatchie River.
It's an ugly history, it really is. But I've always been told, if you don't learn your history, you're doomed to repeat it.
Emmett Till's murder made national headlines, shocking the nation and fueling the civil rights movement.
That was the spark that started the flame for desegregation.
People began to speak more about issues related to racism in the South. African Americans began to organize.
But the old wounds of the past still haunt this town. And in 2013, a man who dreamed of bringing change to Clarksdale would be ripped from the community in yet another horrifying murder. On the morning of February 25th, 2013, the Coahoma County Sheriff's Office gets a call from a family concerned their son, Marco McMillan, has gone missing. Marco's family tells police he left the house around 10 p.m. on Sunday night to move his car and never came back. Neither they nor Marco's friends have been able to reach him on his phone, which is highly unusual.
Marco was texting, communicating, joking throughout the day, not just with his friends, but everyone, right? His fraternity brothers. It's just not like Marco to go off rail, not like that. My gut instinct said, this is not going to end well.
Marco McMillan was born on April 23, 1979, to a devoted family who worked hard to provide him with a stable and loving home.
There was plenty of structure, plenty of love, plenty of understanding. I would say those things were present in the home.
Marco had a heart for people, and he never met a stranger. Marco made you feel seen, he made you feel welcome. He took everybody under his wings, and he also was a person of action. If Marco said that he was going to do something, he did it.
In high school, Marco's natural leadership skills began to emerge in a big way.
Marco was an excellent student, wise beyond his years of age. He used to talk with me sometimes, and I would just look at him. Marco, you are 17 years old. But I think he was planning then, how can I change things? What can I do to make things better or different?
After graduating, Marco left Clarksdale to attend Jackson State University. He became heavily involved in one of the school's black fraternities, Phi Beta Sigma. He would go on to work for the national chapter in Washington, D.C.
He became the international executive director of the Phi Beta Sigma fraternity. That was big news for Clarksdale community. So he learned a lot from economics, learned a lot about city management, he learned a lot about all of those things. And I'm sure he wanted to implement some of those when he came back to Clarksdale.
15 years after leaving Clarksdale, Marco brought his talent and experience back to his beloved hometown.
He wanted to know, why were we in poverty? Why we didn't have adequate housing? He saw that there could be these kinds of things in this community if the ones that had gone away to school would come home and do this. And so I believe that's why he came home, because he felt that the vision that he had of making this town different, he could contribute.
Marco decided the best way he could contribute was by running for mayor of Clarksdale.
He thought that the mayor could be the catalyst to bring a lot of things into the city. He wanted black people to have more of a voice, and he wanted to be that voice.
The difference is made when you have a heart for the people.
Marco knew his calling in life. That is the best way I can put it. Marco knew what he was put on this earth to do, and that was to shine a light on darkness.
But Marco's campaign faced some unique challenges.
He was black and gay, but he wasn't black and gay as a candidate, if you will. Obviously, he was an African American. I mean, that's clear. But Marco never ran as a gay candidate.
Marco was just Marco around here. People did not think of him as a gay man. The impression I got is people knew him as an individual, not as a gay man, not as a black man, but as Marco McMillan, a young and upcoming guy.
Although Marco didn't make his identity central to his campaign, it still put a potential target on his back in his deeply southern hometown.
I had a passion to do things in politics in Mississippi, but like so many other, LGBTQ plus individuals, you're afraid to run. Even at that time, I hadn't even came out in Mississippi. So absolutely, I had reservations about Marco coming to the deep south of Clarksdale.
Marco made his platform clear from the start, even though it wasn't likely to gain him many supporters from Clarksdale's powerful elites.
His platform was going to be education, economic development, job creation, and one of the sticky pieces of that was going to be actually looking at auditing Clarksdale books. He felt as though Clarksdale had received millions and millions of dollars over the course of the years and nothing has happened, right? So he really wanted to hold political leaders accountable.
Some people, as we know, would take what was meant for good and use it for evil.
Marco was on a mission to disrupt what he saw as Clarksdale's good old boy system, a system he felt had been corrupted for a long time.
I will go back as far as I need to go back to trace why Clarksdale, Mississippi is not matching up to the funding that the federal government is putting in this small town.
Between Marco's outsider status and his political crusades against Clarksdale's old guard, many of his friends worried for his safety.
I would say, be careful. We're dealing with a different type of people in this town. Watch your back. You may not want to open up so many cans of worms right now. Don't let your left know what your right is doing.
I said, if there's a weakness out there, somebody will find it and may exploit it.
Marco's friends now fear those concerns may have been realized. At the behest of Marco's loved ones, the sheriff's office opens a missing persons investigation. Less than a day later, they receive an emergency call that changes everything.
There was a car crash out on the highway, and it involved Marco McMillan's vehicle. At that time, no one knew who was driving, We assumed it was Marco, but it just didn't make any sense. And so it was a strange little story from the outset.
Surprises me every day as a dad is him. Every day he's hungry for something. And there's this huge responsibility in making sure that he's a good person. I think the advice I would give is you don't need to know all the answers. It's okay to make mistakes. As long as it's coming from love, then it kind of starts to work itself out.
The sheriff's office in Clarksdale, Mississippi is investigating the disappearance of mayoral candidate Marco McMillan. But when they're called to the scene of a grisly car crash, it appears the search might be ending as quickly as it began.
On that morning, February 26th of 2013, I was leaving the sheriff's department and I heard a 1050, which is a traffic accident with some injuries, call out on the radio.
First responders rushed to the scene, where a white Chevrolet and a black Tahoe have been involved in a head-on collision.
When I arrived on scene, the Tahoe was sitting sideways in the middle of the road and the front end was completely pushed in. Oils and liquids and every kind of fluid leaking everywhere, glass strewn all over the streets, just a mess. The other truck was like a white Chevrolet that he had hit head on. It was out in the field.
Witnesses say the driver of the Tahoe is the one responsible for the crash.
Even though it was out in the county, there were people living right on the roadway who definitely heard it, definitely saw it. I remember folks saying that it looked like the vehicle had steered directly into oncoming traffic and purposely hit another vehicle.
When officers run the Tahoe's information, they're surprised to find it's registered to their missing person.
It was tagged out of Tennessee to a Marco McMillan. At that time, someone alerted me on scene that that was the subject that was running for mayor and that they thought he had family in Clarksdale.
But the injured man lying in the back seat of the SUV is not Marco.
The impact threw him all the way into the back seat of the vehicle. And he had a large amount of skin and glass in all of his arms. He was bleeding profusely. I tried to ask his name and he wouldn't want to answer any questions or anything like that.
And it was just this weird bag of mysteries. Who is this guy? You know, why was he driving Marco's vehicle? Why did he, apparently, according to witnesses, purposely crash headlong into oncoming traffic?
Right away, police treat the situation as highly suspicious.
Anytime you have someone driving someone else's vehicle, there could be robbery. That could be a motive.
I immediately thought, hey, this is a stolen vehicle, and that's why the guy's not wanting to give any information. But at the same time, then we've got a missing person involved in it to where we can't locate.
As officers consider the implications, a panicked woman arrives on the scene. She says the driver of the Tahoe is her ex-boyfriend, Lawrence Reed, and he'd come to her that morning with a terrifying confession.
She explained that she knew him and had dated him previously, but she didn't really want anything to do with him. And that morning, he showed up before the accident, stating to her that he possibly just killed someone and that he was gonna kill himself. He didn't know what to do.
You want to see a friendly face, and basically his ex-girlfriend, if I recall, was like, I don't know what to tell you, man. You've come to the wrong house. I don't traffic in murders.
She said that he got in the vehicle and drove off, and that's when she heard the accident happen. Once the female witness gave me that information that he possibly was involved in a homicide, I immediately went to the ambulance and placed a handcuff on him onto the stretcher so that he could not try to leave till we had him in a proper authority's hands.
Reed is taken into custody, but police are left with more questions than answers.
It was a strange case. We had the confession before we had the victim.
How did he get in the vehicle? Where was Marco? What was going on?
Candidate Marco McMillan has been missing for nearly 2 days now, and his car has mysteriously turned up at the scene of a violent highway crash.
The driver, 22-year-old Lawrence Reed, has been arrested on suspicion of murder. And once his injuries are stabilized, police are anxious to get some answers.
My chief deputy sent one of our deputies en route to the hospital to speak with him about this incident, and they started gathering more information there.
Reed grew up in the nearby town of Shelby, Mississippi. After graduating high school, he moved to Clarksdale and found work at a pizza place.
Frankly, the folks I talked to who knew him said he wasn't all that bright. He wasn't the sort of person who was malicious, and certainly wasn't the sort of person who could plan a crime like this. You know, you're not really talking about somebody who's a criminal mastermind here. And the more the story unfolded, almost the less sense it made.
When police ask Reed about the crash, he confirms he was trying to kill himself. And the reason why is linked to Marco's disappearance 2 days ago.
Reed stated to the investigators that he was walking in Clarksdale when he was approached by McMillan in a vehicle. McMillan asked him if he wanted to go to a party in Marks, Mississippi with him.
Reed says he didn't know Marco that well, but decided to take him up on the offer.
Marco had picked Reed up. They drove to the next county over, went to the McDonald's and the gas station, got some blunts, put some marijuana in them, then drove out to a county road.
According to Reed, that's when things took a darker turn. He says Marco pulled over on one of the back roads outside town and began to pressure Reed into a sexual encounter.
Reed stated that McMillan tried to show him some pornography on his phone while exposing himself to Reed. Reed didn't want to have any part of that and asked to get out of the vehicle.
McMillan tried to grab him, tried to undress him in the car, and Reed said he was just terrified. I remember him saying, you know, I'm a little guy, and he was a much smaller person than McMillan.
Reed tells investigators that he thought he was about to be sexually assaulted, so he fought back, and things quickly spiraled out of control.
They got into a fight where Reed ended up strangling McMillan with a chain off of his wallet.
Reed claimed he panicked and pushed Marco out of the vehicle. Once outside, the attack continued.
During that strangulation, he thought he was still alive, so he pushed his head down in some water until he was sure he was dead. Then he placed the body back inside of the vehicle.
Despite the outcome, Reed insists he never intended to kill Marco.
He claimed it was an accident, but once he realized what he'd done, he freaked out and drove all the way back to Clarksdale with the dead body in the car.
He stated to the other investigators that he rode around with it all morning until he could figure out somewhere to take the body to.
I couldn't tell you what his mindset was because, again, I certainly wasn't there. What you do with it at that point is you call the authorities and say, hey, I accidentally killed a guy.
Reed says he moved Marco's body into the woods and removed all his clothing. He then proceeded to try and destroy Marco's body.
What he did was he decided to buy a gallon of gasoline or something, which is not enough to burn a human body, and took him behind the levee and tried to get rid of the body.
Unfortunately, Reed doesn't remember exactly where he left Marco's body. He's only able to give police a vague description of the area.
The two men had been drinking and they were probably high, so possibly that had something to do with it. It's not for me to say what caused what, but I can certainly understand why he might be in a distressed state.
Without evidence to back any of his claims, detectives aren't sure how much of Reed's story to believe. But Marco's loved ones have already begun to fear the worst.
I kept feeling it in the pit of my stomach. This will not go well. Days later, I found out what had happened, and it was exactly what my gut was
The banks of the Mississippi River looking for Marco McMillan's body.
Myself, along with some search and rescue officers, went to the area and started checking every road leading down the side of the levee. By that time of the evening, it was getting dark, probably around 5:30, and we checked until we couldn't see anymore. So we called it a night. and I started back that next morning with my chief deputy. During the night, the investigators received information from Reed that he said that he dropped a body by an orange tractor. Well, I remembered seeing a red tractor, and I know one of the cattle farmers there has a small red tractor, and I remember seeing it in an area. So when I went back down to that area, the tractor had been moved down the levee on the opposite side. There was a grass trail leading down the levee on the riverside, and I could see tracks leading down in the grass to the bottom where a vehicle turned around and came out. So when I walked down the trail to where the vehicle tracks were, you could see some drag marks in the grass leading towards the barbed wire fence. When I was about to step over the fence, I looked ahead. There was a large tree, and I could see the bare feet of a human sitting behind that tree. So at that time, I crossed the fence and located the body of Marco McMillan.
Reed's description of the murder, though graphic, still does not prepare investigators for what they see.
He was naked. His hair and face and chest were singed and had some blistering of like it'd been set on fire. I remember a gash to his forehead. And I also located a bottle right by him, I wanted to say, that still smelled like an accelerant, like gasoline or something. At that point, we backed out, contacted the Mississippi Bureau of Investigation, which their crime scene unit, along with Coroner Scotty Meredith, arrived on scene.
I observed him on the west side of the tree. I couldn't tell if he had been strangled, if his hyoid bone was broke or anything like that from outside looking in. I saw a few bruises and I saw a few blisters, from the burns. We bagged him, put bags on his hands to preserve any evidence for if there was any scratch marks or anything like that. If he had clawed or fought his defender, he would have something on his fingers.
The true motive behind Marco's murder is still unclear, even with Reed's own confession. But much of what he says he did to Marco is supported by the evidence at the scene.
You can see where he was drugged from the car to the behind that tree, and he's a pretty good sized man. He wasn't a little bitty fella.
We photographed the drag marks and the tire impressions.
What we decided with the circumstances and all the connections and the power of all to be, we were going to take him straight to the crime lab.
On February 28th, Lawrence Reed is officially charged with murder. On March 9th, Marco's devastated family and friends lay him to rest.
Everyone attended the funeral. It was just outpouring of love for Marco and his family. We knew what Marco stood for. We knew what he was trying to do, what he was trying to accomplish. And he was working for the people, for the community. It wasn't selfish in his heart in no form or fashion.
I was always told as a child growing up that the attendance at your funeral sort of told the kind of life you live. Looking at the number of people in attendance, they too were in awe of what happened. Beautiful, beautiful ceremony. Beautiful.
Although investigators keep many of the details of Marco's death confidential while the investigation is ongoing, in a small town like Clarksdale, it doesn't take long for rumors to begin swirling throughout the city.
They found that Marco's body was behind the levee, slightly burned, and that just sent the whole area into this tailspin of rumors and gossip and stories, as you would expect.
One rumor that begins to permeate throughout the city is that Marco was dragged with a vehicle, inciting fears that his death may have been a modern-day lynching.
Lynchings are a very real part of the history of the South, and obviously they're horrific crimes. Almost always they involve the mutilation of the person, then of the corpse, and just the defilement of the body.
The coroner, Scotty Meredith, says Marco was dragged away from the vehicle, not with it.
That went way, way bad. They put him behind a car and drug him. No, that's not what happened. He was drugged from the car to the scene, which was not very far, maybe 25 feet, if that far. And that's a big deal. Being drugged was a big deal. When we say drag, the guy that killed him got under his arms probably and pulled him out of the car, and his 2 feet drugged the ground 25 feet maybe.
I don't know of too many lynchings or too many hate crimes against African Americans committed by other African Americans. That's the part that didn't really make a lot of sense to me. You know, I mean, I've got a degree in Southern history, and I've never heard of anything like that.
Another rumor that grabs hold is that Reed may have simply been a pawn in a much larger conspiracy, and that he may have murdered Marco on the direct orders of someone who felt threatened by Marco's run for mayor.
When you have a young, upcoming individual such as Marco, you're going to have some whites that's going to be afraid of that. You're going to have some people that feel as if, okay, if this individual is such a threat of this nature, we need to band together and do something. I hate to think that Marco was murdered because of that, but we don't know.
And when Marco's autopsy report goes public in the days after his death, the rumors will only become even more explosive.
According to the medical examiner's report from Jackson, he was also beaten and burned. We're getting a tremendous amount of insight from what's inside these documents.
Been coroner now for 28 years. I have never had as much publicity on a case as I did on this one.
For the underrepresented communities Marco McMillan was trying to serve, his loss is unimaginable.
Marco measured impact by people and their response and them feeling his heart. And what I know for sure is that Marco had gained the morale of the people, the trust of the people. He spent hours sitting at tables, kitchen tables, dinner tables, illuminating the minds of the way people think. That is one of the most powerful things you can do.
Despite the rumors circulating throughout the city, law enforcement in Clarksdale remains tight-lipped about Marco's murder. On May 1st, 2013, Marco's mother, Patricia, sends a letter to the sheriff demanding answers. That same day, the district attorney approves the release of Marco's autopsy and toxicology results. The report confirms Marco had small amounts of alcohol and marijuana in his system, but neither contributed to his death. It's the list of extensive wounds that draws the most attention throughout Clarksdale.
The body was pretty badly damaged. Part of that was from the burning, part of that was from the dragging, part of that was from the barbed wire. You drag a body through anything, obviously, you're gonna have scratches and contusions, things like that.
To many in Clarksdale's black community, the autopsy report raises even more questions than it answers. While some are still convinced it's a hate crime, others speculate that, whether hate played a role or not, Reed must have had some help to do what he did to Marco, whatever his motive may have been.
There's somebody else out there. There's somebody else a part of it. They're not being punished for what they did.
But investigators on the case believe Reed was so amped up after the murder, it's possible that he summoned the strength to drag Marco on his own.
I think the guy's adrenaline was going so that it didn't matter how big it was. Unless somebody just gets to where they can't live with it and comes up and says, I did help drag him or whatever. But I don't think that'll ever happen.
The rumors of more than one killer led some in the community to suspect that Reed may have targeted Marco because he was being paid to do so.
That's where the notion came in, okay, that this murder was political. I mean, was he killed because he was running for mayor? You had two politicians vying for the position. So therefore, both of them were highly motivated, and one of them ended up dead. So that kind of cast a dark light on the community as to what happened to Marco.
One pervasive story was that a powerful Clarksdale attorney and entrepreneur named Bill Luckett, who was also running for mayor, must have directed Reed to kill Marco. But many were quick to dismiss the rumor.
Bill Luckett was also legitimately very popular in his own right, and popular among a broad swath of people, from white folks, African Americans, and heck, for that matter, the first gay wedding in Clarksdale was at Bill Luckett's Ground Zero Blues Club. No one who knew Bill Luckett would honestly believe that Bill Luckett would have someone murdered, because yes, he was super rich, but I mean, he wasn't evil.
Others speculated that Marco's other opponent, Chuck Espy, must have somehow been involved. But that rumor, too, was quickly dispelled.
Espy was coming in there, gonna go for it, and he's been a state representative. His dad's been our mayor several terms, and neither one of them would have done anything like that. I think it's just the timing of everything, and I think it's the way the community got it out there, you know.
But for some of Marco's stauncher supporters, they still aren't convinced it wasn't political, and that Reed was simply acting on behalf of someone who feared Marco's inquest into Clarksdale's finances.
Marco was prophetic in his thoughts and foresights. He told me that if something happens to me, I want you to know is this campaign. He said these demons are coming out of the woodworks. They don't want me to shed a light on corruption and what's going on in this city. So he said, if you hear that something has happened to me, it's the campaign. It's the campaign. One of my regrets was I did not dig into it. I should have took what Marco told me seriously. Who are you referring to? Give me more context so I can go off of it.
But authorities find no actual evidence of any sort of conspiracy.
They were saying, what are y'all covering up? You know, why are y'all covering this death up? And I said, nobody's covering up nothing. I said, you can look at anything I got, you know. And I said, you can go to the crime lab. We'll go down there. We'll look at everything you want to. Nobody's covering up nothing.
That still doesn't stop the story from gaining national attention, only feeding the rumors on a much larger scale.
I was called by the Current Affairs TV show. I was interviewed by Atlanta, Georgia Constitution, New York Times, Washington Post. They all came to my office.
The national media outlets reported that it was a racial crime, that it was a homophobic crime, politically motivated. And I think that's human nature, not just because it's a small town. A black gay political candidate gets murdered. I mean, you're going to draw conclusions like that.
Despite all the different theories taking on a life of their own in Clarksdale and beyond, Marco's family must focus on the reality of punishing the man responsible for his murder. They want to make sure that no matter what stories he told to police, Lawrence Reed doesn't escape justice for what he did to Marco.
It's one thing to kill somebody in self-defense. It's another thing to kill somebody, steal their vehicle, try to burn their body, then run and hide.
March 2015, 2 years after the brutal murder of mayoral candidate Marco McMillan, his confessed killer, Lawrence Reed, finally stands trial.
It wasn't a terribly big courtroom. It was an older courtroom, so little, wood floors, that sort of thing, wooden benches for the audience. The Reed family was there, and it was hard on them, you could tell. They held out hope, I think, that somehow Reed would, if not get off, then at least get a light sentence.
But the prosecution has a different outcome in mind. Despite his claims of a sexual assault, the state argues that Reed had plenty of opportunities to simply walk away, or that he could have called police to report the crime after the fact. Instead, he strangled Marco to death and mutilated his body to cover up the crime.
Lawrence Reed said Mark McMillan made a pass at him and tried to get physical with him. But the state was always very firm, of course, that doesn't justify murder. Reed could have left the vehicle, or he could have called the police immediately. There was always options.
The state has no obligation to prove Reed's true motive, and they largely avoid the subject altogether. All they need to prove is that Reed murdered Marco, plain and simple.
You can't plead self-defense. If you kill someone, steal their car, snag their body, and try to burn their body.
As for the conspiracy theories that have taken on a life of their own, the district attorney avoids talk about those as well, since that's all they seem to be, just theories.
You say to yourself, there must have been a setup, somebody must kill him, but the law in the investigation didn't bear that out.
It was just this horrible, sad, unfortunate story about somebody who overreacted at a sexual assault, did the absolute wrong thing, and continued to do the absolute wrong thing until he was arrested.
But Marco's family and friends insist he would never sexually assault anyone. and that Reed is simply trying to make himself out to be the victim.
I will say, Marco, never in 1,000 years. And I'll leave it at that, never in 1,000 years.
To everyone's surprise, Reed decides to take the stand in his own defense. He sticks to his original story.
He was in tears. He seemed like he was reliving it in real time. I mean, he was not enjoying himself being up there. I did not get the sense it was premeditated the slightest. I believe his story that he got freaked out and that maybe he was sexually assaulted and he responded in the worst way imaginable. But I never got the impression that he was motivated by hate, motivated by bias or malice or any kind of bigoted sentiment.
Reed doesn't hold up well under cross-examination, however.
The old adage is true, you know, you shouldn't take the stand in your own defense. Our district attorney, she did not go easy on him. My goodness, I hope I never cross-examined by her because it was an evisceration.
On March 12th, 2015, the jury finds Lawrence Reed guilty of murder.
There was an emotional reaction from the Reed family because, again, they didn't want to see their kid locked up for years and years and years. But the McMillan family was, as you would expect, relieved.
Justice has been done, and we're prepared to move forward in the memory and legacy of Marco.
Reed is sentenced to life in prison without parole.
The death penalty is legal in Mississippi, but they don't typically go after it for various political reasons.
As far as the state is concerned, justice has been served. But for many, questions still linger, and Marco's death will never make sense, and it may never have closure.
Time and time again, you see the lack of justice for Black people, and not just in Mississippi, but around the country. It just causes in our psyche, as just human beings, that we question the system. So when I look at it from the legal standpoint, is there a lot of questions? Yes. Is there a lot of gaps? I believe in the case. Yes. Do I trust the justice system 100%? No. Marco brought about public attention to what he believed to be, waste, fraud, abuse, misuse of funding. Now, did he have evidence? I don't know. Was people nervous around the town? The chatter when I was on the ground talking to people at the crossroads at Clarksdale? Yes.
You're on this political stage, you got higher ambitions, and there's always something happening in shark-infested waters.
He was going to bring forth a new era, a new generation of leaders here in Oklahoma County. So therefore, Marco was a threat to somebody, somehow, some form, or some fashion. So therefore, it's still a question mark there, and it's going to forever be a question mark.
My hope is that if there is unsolved mysteries and gaps that people know about, they will speak up about that. They will shine a light on that, so we won't have to ever experience another Marco McMillan.
Marco's death prevented him from pursuing the changes he dreamed of, but the effect he had on the people of Clarksdale lives on.
I think it changed the dynamics in the city at that time. It changed the hope and dream of people in the community. They became more adamant about having a Black mayor. I think sometimes martyrs change communities for life.
He made a significant impact here. We just need 100 more like Marco. Yeah.
The vision he had for Clarksdale is still coming true today. And I believe that his life is not in vain. His life was dedicated to changing things in Clarksdale. It did. It did.